The mountain path curved gently through the pines, where sunlight flickered like gold through branches. Evelyn Carter loved this trail. It had been her favorite place since she was a young woman, a path she'd walked for decades with her husband, Robert. That morning, the air smelled of rain and earth. Evelyn carried a small backpack with sandwiches, a thermos of coffee, and a blanket. It was supposed to be a peaceful Sunday outing. That morning, the air smelled of rain and earth. She smiled when she saw them walking a few paces ahead. "You two go on," she said warmly. "We'll catch up." Robert chuckled beside her. They're young. They don't know the joy of taking it slow. But something about the way Michael looked back, his eyes cold, distant, made her chest tighten. The distance between them. The family had grown apart over the years. Michael was their only child, but he'd changed since marrying Sophia. Once a kind, open boy, he had become sharp, secretive, and impatient with his parents' simple life. Evelyn had tried to ignore it, the missed phone calls, the rushed visits, the way Sophia looked at their small home with quiet disdain. But Robert had noticed too. "He's slipping away from us," he said one night. "And I don't know how to reach him anymore." Evelyn always replied, "He's our son. Love will bring him back." She believed that, until that day on the mountain. The cliff. When they reached the ridge, the view was breathtaking. Clouds drifted low across the valley, sunlight spilling over distant hills. Evelyn felt small, grateful, and at peace. She reached for Robert's hand. "We should take a photo," she said. Sophia smiled too brightly. "Good idea. Stand closer to the edge, the background's perfect." Evelyn hesitated. The rocks looked unstable. But she didn't want to seem afraid, so she stepped forward. She never saw it coming. A sudden shove from behind. Her body lurched forward, weightless, terrified, before crashing into jagged rocks below. Her ears rang. Blood filled her mouth. She could barely move. And then she heard a second thud, Robert's. Above them, Michael's voice low, tense. "Are they dead?" Sophia's reply, sharp as glass. "They will be. Let's go." The sound of footsteps fading. Leaves rustling. Silence. Evelyn tried to call out, but only a gasp escaped. Then Robert's whisper came through the pain. "Don't move. Pretend to be dead." The night below. They lay there for hours, side by side, as the sun disappeared and cold crept in. Every breath hurt. Evelyn stared at the darkening sky through the trees, tears mixing with blood. "Why, Robert?" she whispered. "Why would he do this?" He didn't answer right away. When he finally spoke, his voice trembled. "Because he knows, Evelyn." "Knows what?" Robert's eyes glistened in the dim light. "You were pregnant when we met. Remember?" She frowned weakly. "Yes. But I lost the baby." Robert shook his head. "No, you didn't. The man you loved before me, he was Michael's father." Evelyn's heart stopped. "That's impossible." "I found the letter years ago," Robert said softly. "You never told me, and I never asked. I loved you, and I loved that boy. But I think he found out. Maybe from Sophia. Maybe from the papers I kept." Evelyn stared at him in disbelief. "He pushed us for that." Robert's voice broke. "He thinks we lied. That we ruined his life." The weight of those words settled like stones in her chest. Her son, or maybe not her son by blood, had tried to end their lives. The escape. As night deepened, Robert forced himself to stand. His leg was broken, his shirt soaked in blood, but he wouldn't stop. "Come on," he whispered. "We have to move before they come back." They crawled through the underbrush, using the moonlight to guide them. Evelyn bit her lip to keep from crying out with every step. By dawn, they reached a dirt road and collapsed near an old barn. A truck driver found them hours later and rushed them to the nearest clinic, a small place miles from the nearest town. The doctor wanted to call the police, but Robert refused. "No," he said. "If they think we're dead, we'll find out what they're really planning." The truth in shadows. Over the next few days, the truth unfolded like a nightmare. Michael and Sophia had already reported them missing, not dead, and were preparing to sell the house. Sophia had even posted pictures of their home online, smiling beside Michael with captions like, "A new chapter begins." Evelyn wept silently as she scrolled through the photos. Robert just sat there, eyes empty. He wrote something in his old notebook, the one he used for prayers and letters. She didn't ask what. On the 5th night, his fever worsened. The infection spread too fast. He clutched her hand and whispered, "Promise me, Evelyn, live. Don't let hate take what's left." Tears streamed down her face. "Don't leave me, Robert. Not now." But he smiled weakly. "You still have time to forgive. Don't waste it." When morning came, he was gone. The return. Weeks later, Evelyn returned to town. Her body was healed enough to walk, but her heart felt like it had been carved out. She watched from across the street as Michael and Sophia left the courthouse, papers in hand. They were laughing as if nothing had happened. That night, Evelyn stood at their doorstep. When Michael opened the door, his face turned white. "Mom, you're alive?" She didn't smile. "You almost made sure I wasn't." Sophia stepped forward, trembling. "Mrs. Carter, it was an accident." Evelyn raised her hand. "Stop lying. I heard you. I heard everything." Michael began to cry. "I didn't mean to." "Yes, you did," she said quietly. "You just didn't mean for me to survive." She handed him the notebook Robert had written in. "Your father wanted you to have this." Michael opened it. The first page read, "Son, I forgive you. Whatever pain drove you to this, I pray it leaves your heart. But know this, love cannot be buried by greed." By the time he looked up, Evelyn was already walking away. The years after, Evelyn sold the house, donated nearly everything she owned, and moved to a small cabin near the base of the mountain. Every Sunday, she walked the same path she once shared with Robert. She never went to the cliff again, but she would stop halfway, where the trees opened to a quiet view of the valley. There, she'd sit with her thermos of coffee and whisper, "I'm still here." The wind would answer with the soft sigh of pines, a sound that felt like forgiveness. The visit. One spring morning, 3 years later, a car pulled up to her cabin. It was Michael. He looked older, thinner, his eyes hollowed by guilt. In his hands, he held flowers. "Mom," he said softly, "I'm sorry." Evelyn watched him, saying nothing. "I lost everything," he continued. Sophia left. "I've been trying to live with what I did." She looked at the flowers, wilted from the drive, and then at him. "You took my husband from me," she said. "But he forgave you." "I can't. Not yet. But maybe someday." Michael nodded, tears streaking his face. "I'll wait for that day." As he turned to leave, Evelyn called after him. "Michael." He turned. She smiled faintly. "You were still my son, no matter what blood says." He stood there, trembling, before walking away into the sunlight. The ridge once more. Years later, locals often saw an elderly woman walking alone on the trail near Miller's Ridge. She'd pause by the overlook and close her eyes, as if listening to something only she could hear. Some said she spoke to her husband. Others said she spoke to the wind. But those who stopped long enough could sometimes hear her whisper, "I forgive you, Michael. I forgive you both." Then she would smile, not in sorrow, but in peace. The mountain wind would carry her words away, across the valley, as though the ridge itself held her secret.